Hold on to your hats, folks. We've got a story that will blow you away. Something truly unbelievable has happened in the West Philippine Sea, a place known for its strategic importance and contested waters. China, the big fiery dragon we all thought was invincible, has just upped and left the building. Yes, you heard that right. Or rather, the West Philippine Sea, a region they've been fiercely guarding. They've packed up their toys and gone home, leaving everyone scratching their heads in disbelief. This isn't some small-time retreat we're talking about. This is a major geopolitical shift. This is China pulling back from a region they've been flexing their muscles in for years, a place they've invested heavily in. The very same China that built those massive artificial islands bristling with military hardware. Remember those? They seemed so permanent. Well, guess what? They're not so permanent after all. The infrastructure is already starting to crumble. The world is in shock. Nobody saw this coming. Analysts are baffled and governments are scrambling for answers. It's like watching a heavyweight boxer walk out of the ring in the middle of a title fight. Unprecedented and confusing. Something big is going on, but nobody knows quite what it is yet. Speculations are running wild. One thing's for sure, this changes everything. The geopolitical landscape will never be the same. The West Philippine Sea is now littered with the ghosts of China's ambition. Those once imposing military bases, symbols of Chinese might, now stand abandoned. Satellite images tell the tale: empty runways, deserted outposts, eerie silence where once there was the bustle of military activity. But here's the really juicy bit. It's not just that China has left. They've seemingly trashed the place on their way out. Reports are coming in of demolished buildings, wrecked equipment, and even ships deliberately sunk to block harbors. It's almost as if they're trying to erase any trace of their presence. What does a retreating army do? They burn the bridges behind them. But China isn't just burning bridges, they're blowing up the entire landscape. It's a clear message, but to whom? And what does it mean? Well, one group who will be breathing a sigh of relief is the Philippines. This is a nation that has been staring down the barrel of Chinese aggression for years. They've watched helplessly as their territorial waters were encroached upon, their fishermen harassed and their resources plundered. This sudden retreat is a game changer for the Philippines. It's like a massive weight has been lifted from their shoulders. They can finally start asserting their own sovereignty in the region without the constant threat of Chinese interference. But it's not just about the Philippines. The entire balance of power in the region has shifted. China's retreat has created a vacuum and everyone's wondering who will fill it. Will the United States step in to reassert its dominance? Or will other regional players like Japan or Australia see this as their chance to shine? The million-dollar question, of course, is why? Why would China, a nation that seems so determined to dominate the West Philippine Sea, just suddenly pack up and leave? It's the geopolitical equivalent of finding a winning lottery ticket and then throwing it in the bin. Doesn't make sense, does it? The rumor mill, as you can imagine, is working overtime. Theories abound, ranging from the plausible to the downright outlandish. Some whisper of secret backroom deals, perhaps a quid pro quo with the US on trade or Taiwan. Others speculate about an economic meltdown in China, forcing them to rein in their military spending. And then there are the truly wild theories: internal rebellion, alien invasion, a sudden attack of conscience. Okay, maybe not the last one, but in times of uncertainty, even the most far-fetched explanations can gain traction. The economic gambit. Let's be honest, keeping those artificial islands afloat wasn't cheap. The costs were astronomical, and the returns, well, they were questionable at best. It was like constantly throwing money into a bottomless pit, a pit that seemed to grow deeper with every passing year. A bottomless pit shaped like a military base, armed to the teeth with missiles and fighter jets. The show of strength was impressive, but at what cost? Some reckon China's economic engine, for all its roaring success, was starting to sputter. Factories that once buzzed with activity were slowing down, and the stock market was showing signs of strain. The trade war with the United States, the global pandemic, and the resulting economic slowdown were all taking their toll. The ever-growing debt bubble, it all added up. The numbers were staggering, and the pressure was mounting. Maybe, just maybe, those islands became a luxury they could no longer afford. The grand vision was starting to look like a costly miscalculation. Think of it like this. You're at a poker table with a fistful of chips looking like a high roller. The confidence is there, but the reality is quite different. Problem is, your actual bank account is emptier than a politician's promise. The facade of wealth and power was beginning to crack. So, what do? The stakes are high, and the pressure is immense. You stage a dramatic exit, all bluff and bluster, before anyone calls your bet. It's a risky move, but sometimes it's the only move left. Section 6. A house divided. Here's a thought. What if the pressure isn't just economic, but political? China might project an image of unity and strength, but behind that facade, there could be cracks in the foundation. Think about it. Millions facing hardship, whispers of corruption in high places, a growing sense that the good times are over. Could it be that China's retreat from the West Philippine Sea is a symptom of a deeper malaise, a sign that the Communist Party's grip on power isn't as firm as it once was? We've seen it before in history. Empires crumbling from within, their expansion halted not by external enemies, but by their own internal contradictions. Could China, for all its might, be facing a similar fate? Then again, maybe we're all being a bit naive. This is China, after all, the land of Sun Tzu and the art of war. What if this whole retreat is nothing more than a clever ruse, a strategic feint designed to lull their opponents into a false sense of security? Think about it. The world breathes a collective sigh of relief, assuming China is on the back foot. The Philippines, emboldened, starts asserting itself in the region. And then, when everyone least expects it, bam! China swoops back in, stronger and more determined than ever. It's happened before in history. Remember the Trojan horse? Sometimes the best way to win a battle is to pretend you've already lost. A region in suspense, allies and adversaries await, each holding their breath for what comes next. The West Philippine Sea is a giant chessboard, and China's retreat has just thrown the game wide open, creating a ripple of uncertainty. Every player from the United States to Vietnam is recalibrating their strategies. From Japan to Australia, each nation is analyzing the situation, trying to figure out their next move in this high-stakes game. The US, of course, will be watching closely, with its eyes peeled for any shifts in the balance of power. They've spent decades trying to contain China's influence in the region, investing heavily in military and diplomatic efforts. This sudden withdrawal presents both an opportunity and a challenge, a double-edged sword. Do they step into the void, bolstering their military presence and reassuring their allies, showing strength and solidarity? Or do they risk being seen as the aggressors, pushing China back into a corner, potentially escalating tensions? Meanwhile, China's neighbors are caught between a rock and a hard place, navigating a complex geopolitical landscape. On the one hand, they'll welcome China's retreat, seeing it as a chance to breathe a little easier, to enjoy a moment of respite. This could mean calmer waters and a return to a more peaceful daily life for many. But they'll also be wary of antagonizing the dragon, knowing that its retreat may only be temporary, a strategic pause. The region remains on edge, aware that the next move could redefine the balance of power in the West Philippine Sea. The Philippines at the crossroads. For the Philippines, this is a pivotal moment. After years of playing defense, they now have a chance to go on the offensive, to reclaim their rightful place in the region. But it won't be easy. They'll need to rebuild their navy, strengthen their alliances, and stand firm against any future Chinese aggression. They'll also need to tread carefully, avoiding any actions that could be seen as provocative and risk reigniting the conflict. It's a delicate balancing act, but one that the Philippines must get right. The future of the region and their own security depends on it. Shifting sands, the future of the West Philippine Sea. So what does the future hold for the West Philippine Sea? The truth is, nobody knows for sure. It's a volatile region, prone to sudden shifts and unexpected turns of events. But one thing's for certain, China's retreat has changed the game forever. The old order, where China seemed unstoppable in its pursuit of dominance, is gone. In its place is a new, more uncertain landscape, where the rules are being rewritten and the balance of power is in flux. The only certainty is uncertainty. And in this dangerous new game, anything is possible. Only time will tell. The West Philippine Sea is eerily quiet now. The roar of Chinese fighter jets has been replaced by the lapping of waves against abandoned concrete. But this silence is deceptive. It's the silence of a held breath, the stillness before a storm. Has China truly retreated, or are they simply regrouping, planning their next move? Are they licking their wounds or sharpening their claws? Only time will tell. One thing's for sure, the world will be watching, and the dragon, even though it seems to have flown away, casts a long shadow. The West Philippine Sea saga is far from over.